Welcome, everybody, to Seattle Sports Union Podcast. I'm back again with the Savage Nathan Savage. What's up, man? I mean, it's one of the biggest games of the year, and it feels like, Nathan, every week is the biggest game of the year. But this one is the biggest game of the year, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right? You want to go to the playoffs. You want to see your team do well. That means you lose a few fingernails, get a little stressed out every weekend now. And I love it, though. I think I'm really excited to see McDonald. I'm really excited to see Darnold. This is where they make their salary. This is where you can hang their hat on what they're doing as a coach, as a quarterback. And I'm excited to see it.
And what's the deal here? All the wheels seem to have fallen off for the Niners, yet they keep winning.
Yeah.
Do they just keep getting the right teams or the wrong teams or the right teams at the wrong time? In other words, the Eagles look like they were in complete disarray. They had the benefit of, a couple teams, like we did as well,
Yeah.
the Colts with a 59 million-year-old quarterback. Is that the case, or is this just a master class by Shanahan in using what he has?
Yeah, it's so hard to tell, right? There's so many movable parts. There's what the GM's doing, there's the players on the field, there's the coaching. But for me, one thing I've really liked about this playoffs is it does feel like the best coaching has kind of come to the forefront over the playoffs. And we're seeing some of these really solid rosters have struggles with whether it's their offensive coordinator, their defensive coordinator, the coaching as a whole, whatever. And I think with the Eagles, it was such a glaring weakness once Kellen Moore left. And all year long, they've been trying to figure out an offense with some of the best weapons in the NFL. And for me, I've just really liked this playoff so far. I think, of course, it's the players on the field, but it does feel like with some of the way the quarterbacks have trended this year, some of the top quarterbacks are out of the playoffs. It's really about coaching and those little details. And for me, Shanahan is coach of the year this year, just because of the way
Right.
they've been injured and they're still,
Yeah, I
right here.
think I have to be in agreement. And look, there's been some talk about the culling of the people manager quarterbacks. In other words, Pete Carroll's, your John Harbaugh's, your Tomlin's, in
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, and how the coaches. There's one thing that's similar to all of them. That well, two things actually. One, maybe the game has passed them by. Two, in accordance with that, is the league right now wants offensive and defensive geniuses. The people management comes later, or I don't know. Is that accurate, or is this just a weird coincidence that those type of coaches have been let go?
For me, we're seeing a little bit even with Andy Reid too. I think for me, I like that the player manager is a coach, but then you better bring in the right coordinators, right? We saw that a little bit with Dan Campbell and the Lions. He brought in the right coordinators. They're a big threat, but then one of his top guys leaves. Who are you going to fill the gap? We saw that as well with the Super Bowl champion Eagles. And I think the big one for me in particular, and we saw it especially with Pete Carroll, he tried to have his son there on offense. And a lot of the rumors or stories coming out from players is they had to go do film room by themselves. They had to go set up game plans by themselves because there's a little bit of nepotism going on. And I think exactly like you're saying, right now you need those geniuses. And I think there are a ton out there. Of course, they're difficult to find. We had no idea this Indiana coach would be like he is when he was just a defensive guy or linebacker coach in Alabama. But I think that's the biggest thing for me is as Harbaugh's getting hired now in the Giants, as Tomlin maybe in a year will get hired. I hope to see him go get a Ben Johnson, go get a Mike McDonald instead of some of these, family friendly hires or guys they've had in their system for a long time, because I agree. I think scheme wise, the NFL is moving a little too fast for that.
Yeah, I got a third thing I just thought of. I think too that there is for specifically for Tomlin and for Harbaugh, there's also fatigue. I don't think they really did anything wrong, and I think if you're looking at Tomlin and he has never had a losing season, your next coach better be the right one, because it's weird how people get tired of winning, because it would seem to me in that specific scenario that you just kind of write it out until you get the right, players, you get the right assistant coaches, that they're gonna throw the dice somewhere else. Same with the Ravens. They're gonna throw their dice and try something else, but it could be worse. Hopefully,
Yeah.
you land a 7 instead of, snake
Yeah.
eyes on those.
Yeah, I tend to be a big coach fan, so I hope they kind of get their comeuppance or their retribution. Because for me, like Harbaugh a couple years ago, that was the best team in football. It's just Mahomes is Mahomes. I don't really blame him for the way those things went. Just like during the Brady era, I didn't really blame that AFC too much when it was Brady every year. So
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
I
yeah,
look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. How are you even in the playoffs? You have a quarterback that's well past his prime. You have a troublemaker wide receiver. You have an offensive line that's You have no playmakers in the backfield, and the defense is statistically they're sub average. He got them to the playoffs with a mediocre team.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
that team
exactly.
just needs better players, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's a little bit I think it's a great thing about the salary cap, but it is one of the cycles you wanna try to avoid when you are a really good team is you keep continuously getting below average draft picks, right? You're always at the back end of the draft. Now, to get a quarterback, you're always having to pick late guys. You don't get those early round QBs. So they're always gonna have a quarterback problem, and I just don't think you can get to the Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl without a quarterback. That feels like the problem with Tomlin. To me, that's not really a Tomlin problem, but I get wanting to reset, tank a little bit, get some better picks, and try to reset from there. So
I
it is
mean,
what it is, but yeah.
I agree with half your statement. I don't agree with the other half. I don't
Yeah.
agree in the tanking philosophy, because if you look at a lot of teams, I mean, look at the Seahawks. They never had a tank. I mean, is a 10-loss season tanking? No, it's not from last year.
Yeah. I guess yeah, tanking's a bad word. I just mean re-roll the
But
roster. So Seahawks are one of the youngest rosters because they reset
yeah,
it. They got unreal draft picks, so that roster is amazing, but you need to kind of roll over, I think.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, agreed. The other portion of that though is, oh my God, I think I lost it. I had something
Sorry.
else important to
Sorry.
say.
Yeah.
The part that I agreed with you on, and that was sometimes you just need a new voice, a new fresh. I mean, it's the whole Pete Carroll thing here. It's consistent mediocrity. And sometimes you just got to say we're gonna have to reset, and maybe that's the point in Pittsburgh and Baltimore is it was consistent mediocrity, and you can't fire all 53 players. I mean, it would take like 3 or 4 years to churn through them. I mean, it's
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely. Oh, I got one other point though about the quarterback. Um, yes, you kind of need a first round quarterback. You have exceptions, but if you look at this year's playoffs, I would say I'm trying to remember exactly what I saw was there's only like three non first round quarterbacks in the playoffs. The rest are all
Yeah,
first rounders.
I thought I saw what you did, and I thought it was just Purdy. Maybe it was someone else, but at this point, it's just Purdy, I think. That's
Was it
not a
just
first
Purdy?
rounder.
Okay, I think in
Yeah.
week one, no, Bryce was a first round pick. That's right. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. If you want to play the odds, first round pick is where
Yeah.
yeah the quarterbacks come from. If the occasional Russell Wilson pops up, your Brock Purdy's that kind of thing, but they tend not. Yeah, they tend not to be the case. And I mean, Sam Darnold, people forget was a first round pick.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I think
but
Hurts would be the one I'm curious of, but I think Hurts was a
Hertz was
first
second.
rounder,
That was
right?
the person I was thinking of. He
Oh,
was a
okay,
second.
okay. Yeah, yeah.
He was a
Yeah.
second round pick. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. That's the
but
one
I
I
think he
wasn't
was
sure
a
of.
high second, so it's essentially a low first, right?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I know, yeah, Lamar Jackson gets first round because he was the last pick of the first round, so he sneaks in there. Yeah.
All right, let's get back to our Seahawks, though. Let's talk about enough about those losers. Let's talk about some winners here. To win this game, I suspect that the Seahawks are going to have they're going to have to play they're going to have to play well in almost every phase of the game. And I'm not saying they have to play great in every phase of the game. Just be the Seahawks, right? Don't get outplayed on just you know uh areas that you're better than them. It's kind of a weird thing to say, but it happens to these Seahawks where they're stuck in close games against, like the 49ers, who I think we have a better roster than, because we don't play our game. And I'm specifically thinking about week one. And if we're just us, we win. If we do something silly like 4 interceptions in the game, we probably deserve to lose.
Yeah, that's what I exactly agree what you're saying about just be the Seahawks. And I think that's the nerves that we're really feeling right now, even though it felt like complete dominance in that 13-3 game, even though it was a 10-point game, it felt like we steamrolled them and played the way McDonald wants to play. But now that it's the playoffs, I think it's almost expected that some of these younger players that have never touched the playoffs
Mhm.
and the coaching that has never touched the playoffs are going to have a little bit of jitters. I think there's going to definitely be the chance we go down something like 10-0 early or the Niners seem like a well-oiled machine and you just have to weather that storm. We've seen that before with the Legion of Boom teams where, things can go wrong in the playoffs. You are going to miss plays sometimes that you felt like were routine during the regular season just because there's that extra intensity going on. And of course, they're professionals, so I don't expect a major blow up. But we've seen it before with Darnold, especially in the playoffs, where he's kind of fallen apart. The pressure, it seems like, has got to him. I want him to just stay the course. I think even if we go down 14-0, we can come back from that and win that game just with how solid our roster is compared to what the Niners are bringing. They are going to be a well-oiled machine. That's the way I feel. That's how I felt about them in this Shanahan era and a lot of their playoff runs when they were the underdog. A lot of times beat a unreal Green Bay team, beat some of the other top Eagles teams, blew them out of the water. I think we know that they're going to be a well-oiled machine out there. On offense, everyone's injured. On defense, everyone is injured, but they've got to this point in the playoffs. They're still a good team. They still have McCaffrey. It's going to take the details from me on the Seahawks team. And I think a couple of those details might lapse early, but I hope they just stay the course because I do agree with you where if they are the Seahawks, they're going to win this game.
Well, it feels like we steamrolled them. However, people kind of pushed to the background that there was a lucky, well, maybe not lucky, but I mean, there was an interception at the 5 yard line
Yeah.
that had the Niners punched it in, that game looks a little different.
Yeah. No, definitely. And that's what was scary because, I would hope Myers is going to make his field goals. I'd hope Darnold doesn't
Right.
take that sack at the 1 yard line, hits his open guy. But we've already seen our offense, even when it seemed the most dominant, only get to 13 points against this Niners team. And I
Which
don't
has a
see us.
statistically bad defense,
Yeah. And I don't
and
see
we weren't
us.
able to put up points.
Yeah, and getting 3 points, holding them to 3 points again, I don't necessarily see that. So that's definitely there's some nerves there, but I think we will expect Myers to play well. For me, that was maybe one of the worst Darnold games I've
Yeah.
seen. It just felt like he was afraid to do anything. I don't like seeing that type of Darnold, but he
I don't
didn't
know if
turn
he was
over the
afraid.
ball.
That just seemed like the playbook, didn't it? It didn't seem like the playbook was Niners have no run defense. Don't don't turn this into an air game. Turn
Yeah,
this into a ground and
definitely,
pound.
but for me, when it was play action and guys were wide open, it seemed like he was too afraid to look for guys, and he just took the sack, right? Like, especially at
Right.
that 1 yard line play. It looked like his
Yeah.
normal read was there, but he was just like, hey, I can't turn it over, can't turn it over. Took the
You know,
sack. And I saw,
yeah.
for me, when Darnold is, full gunslinger, we get in some problems. But also, when he's too afraid to be a little bit gunslinger, we get some problems there too. And I don't think we win in the playoffs just playing, hey, Darnold, let's play to not turn the ball over. I think he has to open it up a little bit. And I would assume the Niners are going to circle the run game this week,
Yeah.
and he's gonna have to open it up a little.
Yeah, the bummer about that is for me is he didn't see Charbonnet in the flat, obviously, right?
Yeah,
And that seemed like the design play.
yeah,
Why not just launch it out at the end zone and go
yeah,
back to second and goal on the one? That
yeah,
that decision baffles me.
yeah. And I just feel like when he's not when the reins are pretty tight on him, it feels like he has a really hard time hitting the open guy. Even on it feels like, at least to me, that was the planned route, right? Play action, throw it to the running back in the flat. But it seems like he's very quickly backs out of that play and then takes the sack. And I saw that a couple other times in that game where it felt like, hey, there's your read right there. He very quickly comes off that read, misses a wide open guy, and either throws it away, takes a sack. And I think that's okay. And I think with the Niners team, we can do that. But if they want to get to the Super Bowl, I don't think they can play that way.
Yeah.
You have to
And
hit the openings.
and I want to get back to my point about like how the Seahawks have to be the Seahawks. A lot of people remember the interception at the goal line for the New England Patriots Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's not really where we lost that game. Where we
Yeah.
lost that game was the defense broke down and let the Patriots get back into the game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
People don't remember that, but the Seahawks were not the Seahawks. The Legion of Boom.
Yeah, that
Um,
was Cliff Averill and Bennett got injured, right? Wasn't that the one where there was a
I think
big bummer
I
with
think Sherman was injured.
okay. I know Averill was a big bummer. Like, we stopped
I knew,
getting pressure on
yeah,
Brady.
I know we stopped getting pressure, and I want to say there was it Walter Thurman? I can't remember. There was like another DB that got injured on the
Yeah,
sideline
yeah. But
during an
for me,
interception.
I thought, like, Averill getting the concussion, I think it was, that's where things
Did he
really
get injured?
shifted
Okay,
or something like
yeah, but I
that,
mean
and we
that was
stopped
where the
getting it.
Seahawks weren't the Seahawks, and it's like
Yeah,
this is not what should have let us down.
yeah,
We should have never been up. What we were up 10 points, right? We should never been in the position to have to make a comeback.
yeah.
That's what I worry about this game.
Yeah, no, and I hope just like this regular season where there was a lot of doubts about Darnold and McDonald, I hope they bring what they brought to the season to the playoffs and show why they won 14 games. But yeah, there's something tricky, you know. Purdy's undefeated in Seattle. Shanahan, I think, is like 4-1 when he's over a 7-point underdog or seeing stats like this is a no joke Seattle or San Fran team.
Yeah,
If they put the foot off the gas in any way, think they've got this game in any way, don't play to the level of the playoff atmosphere in any way, this Niners team will take advantage. So
you brought
yeah,
up a doom scenario where like we go down 10 points, and that would be something in my head. I'm thinking like a kick return for a touchdown, or
yeah,
a weird baffling block punt or something to that
yeah,
effect, which can happen in the playoffs. But I think about this, and we look at the formula for success 2 weeks ago, and that was ground and pound, keep keep the ball in the hands of our running backs against this terrible run defense. I don't know. Can you do that again? Because it looked like the Foreigners really shut down the run game of the Eagles last week.
yeah. It's so tough. I think the Eagles are another good example of what I would be very afraid if the Seahawks decide to do. It seems like they played as well to not lose the game or not turn the
Yeah,
ball
they were
over and didn't.
very conservative on
Uh,
offense.
and I think we'll see what happens. But say that I don't even think it requires anything that crazy. The Niners looked better as the game went on. As that first game went on, their offense was starting to, you know, do things out on the field. They almost had that touchdown before McCaffrey, like you said, it was a very unlucky play. I don't see McCaffrey doing that again, maybe ever in his career.
Right.
But I think they were starting to get some things going on us, and it makes me a little nervous where they might get one of those drives and they might get a touchdown. And the Seahawks, miss some things, get a 3-and-out. They kick a field goal and right away it's a 10-point game. For me, I think so much of the playoffs though is playing, that full game, playing the 60 minutes, and those type of things can happen. But I think the Seahawks team, if they just stick to what they know, don't panic, I think they can come back from things like that relatively easy.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go back to something that you said again about Jason Myers. Just thinking about it, getting him right, and also taking the field goals when they're there.
Yeah.
Stop going for it on fourth down all the time.
Yeah.
Like, take the field goals. By the way, that's screwed Carolina. All the fourth down. I know they're trying to be aggressive. I know that's their thing. But man, they could have helped out the Seahawks a little bit and taken the points when they had them.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example for me of, hey, just that coach. It's his first time in the playoffs. He's gonna have to learn a little bit better. I think it's Canales. He's just gonna have to learn a little better. That might have been fun in games during the regular season. That's not how you play in the playoffs, though. You're not giving the Rams short field on the first drive of the game very often
Right.
at the
Right.
30,
Don't
going
do
for
that.
fourth and whatever, and expecting you're gonna win a lot of those games. And I think if I'm not wrong, it ended up being really, really close at the
Yeah, it
end.
was close for quite a while. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
and
the
that
Rams pulled away at the
three
end, but
free points they gave the Rams, or 7, whatever it was, on
yeah,
that
it was, wasn't it?
situation.
Was it tied at halftime, I think?
Yeah, I thought they were driving to win the game at the end too.
Yeah. Well,
They just
there's
couldn't
that.
get it, the Panthers.
Yeah, something the Panthers do just does not work for the Rams. The Rams
Yeah,
lost to them in the regular season. The Rams didn't look like the Rams against the Panthers for
no,
sure. But yeah, I got a question about the Seattle Seahawks defensive front. I think if I'm trying to think of keys, I think the whole key to this game is just how much they put Purdy like under pressure. And I think
Yeah.
if I remember right, I don't have the stats in front of me. They barely blitzed against Purdy. They got him
Yeah.
with the front four.
And I think they just completely shut down that vaunted Shanahan running game as well. It was kind of hand in hand. I think I agree with you 100%. It was that D line, and they'll get Trent Williams back this week, so I expect better things from the Niners. But yeah, that's such an underrated part of the defense. I felt like with the Legion of Boom, it felt a little bit. It was like back forwards, right? It was the secondary first, and then the line that would complement that. This team totally feels like it's our front seven first, and then our secondary is obviously unreal, but it feels like we're kind of in the reverse where when our defensive line sets the tone, the whole game goes the way of the Seahawks on defense. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. I think the Niners, we didn't talk about it too much before the last game, but their running game was really inefficient. Their whole running game was basically non-existent, and it was passes to McCaffrey that set the tone for their whole kind of short game. It was
Dang,
one of the
Nathan.
most inefficient running games, and I
Yeah.
think Emin Wari just flashed for me so much. I think he reminds me of Chancellor as well, where he sets the tone. And very early on, he got to McCaffrey, stopped some of those short plays. I know later in the game, Kittle went off. This week he'll be out, luckily for us. But early in the game, Emin Wari, I felt like really set the tone. Witherspoon followed up, and I do like now our matchup against some of what they do with the running back out of the backfield, passing the ball. When I would say, during Pete Carroll's end of his era, that felt like a touchdown all the
Yeah.
time. Like
Yeah.
we were just getting burned on that. So that was also really nice for me to see, because that's basically their running game, is passing it, short passes to McCaffrey.
Right on. So you're talking about George Kittle, another injury. Is there any truth that the 49ers stadium being next to a power plant is causing all their injuries?
Yeah, so I don't know if I don't want to go, down the 5G route or all that route, try to go there right now.
You don't want to
But
put
I
the
do know it's affecting the players and supposedly affecting free agency. So whether it's true or not, I have my own opinion there, obviously. But
I want the tinfoil hat. I want tinfoil hat, Nathan.
no, for me, I don't see it that way. But I think the players are starting to, and I think it's a big problem for the Niners now. And I really do think for me, it's more on the side of some rumors that Shanahan is really, really tough during practice. He runs a really, really hard, difficult practice, a lot of reps, high speed practice, and he doesn't really tone it down, doesn't give as many rest days. I would hope instead of, moving their facility or taking down the power plant, they look at a little bit of the ways they practice and try to see if that's a factor. Because for me, they fired their strength and conditioning coaches a few times. They fired their trainers a few times. It might not be that, and they should look somewhere else. But maybe that other direction is not 5G electro waves or whatever they're saying. Yeah.
I thought we were going to get some conspiracy theories out of you, but
Yeah.
the thought occurs to me that, and this came out of a conversation I had with former UW Husky player, basketball player Noah Dickerson. You can catch that interview here on YouTube and Spotify. But the way players in basketball, reason why they're getting more injuries is because the style of play
Yeah.
is 100. It's 100%.
Yeah.
Always go, 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 go. There's never, there's a lot less bringing the ball up the court. It's now like running the ball up the court.
Yeah.
And I wonder if, the NFL, maybe the foreigners, when you mentioned like, harder practices, well, back in the day, they used to practice a lot more with
Yeah.
full contact than they do now.
Yeah.
And, I wonder if that kind of wear and tear makes it such that the players are not capable of doing 100%, during the game. Back in even before then, when you did two-way, when players played both offense and defense and didn't have face masks, they'd still get injured, but you couldn't get injured as much because you never had 100% energy in you.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why they look slower and ran slower and hit slower. It's because you were in for the whole game. They couldn't sub out any more than I think 3 or 4 guys. And you had to play both sides of the ball. So there's no way you could run at full speed. Whereas now everything's situational. You go out for one play, you give it 110% because that's you're not going to get that many opportunities. So I wonder if people playing at a faster speed because they're more rested and don't practice as often. Maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, I think I mean, there's so many factors as well. I think, there's some pretty funny photos of the size of an average O lineman or average D lineman back in the day versus now, right? They're
Right.
so much bigger. And the PTs, when I'm always talking to physical therapists, they're saying, well, you might have a ton more muscle, you might have a ton more power, but your tendons and ligaments, they're staying the same size, right?
Yeah,
Your Achilles
exactly.
is not getting bigger when your leg is twice as big. So,
Right. A 250 pound offensive lineman back in the day isn't putting as much stress on the knee, right? That what you're
yeah.
saying? Okay.
Yeah, so I think some's there. I mean, I also think back in the day, I heard stories, people would play with busted up knees. People would play with broken legs, even, or crazy stories. So
Jack
I think
Vanderbilt.
also, yeah, I'm happy as well with their treating the players a little bit better. They're a little more careful, right? A guy like McCaffrey can have more of like a nerve injury in his calf that we didn't even maybe know existed back in the day, and they can work on that. Nerves take a year and a half to a couple years to repair sometimes. So some of that is new with this day and age. But yeah, like you said though, having an Achilles tear, people were not playing on that back in the day, like Kittle just got. So there is something going on there, and I like that you bring up the NBA because it really that Achilles injury feels like an example of that. Just so much wear and tear, running up the court so many times for a guy like Kevin Durant or Kobe or some of those guys. And I think it's there for sure. I think the way they go 100% now, the way they cut, the way they're training,
Yeah.
the part that kind of falls behind is those ligaments and tendons and some of those areas of the body that there's not, I'm sure they're doing everything they can to help that out, but it feels a little bit like an engineering thing, like a ticking time bomb, right? Where eventually moving a certain way this many times it'll break on you. So yeah,
Or the power
yeah.
plant is shooting microwave
Yeah.
radiation at the team
Which
at
makes
you.
recovery harder, right? Like they're saying. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, there's going to be a lot of theories, and I hope it improves some parts of the NFL, right? We saw with what they were trying to do with T.J. Watt with the micro needling or the dry needling ruptured his lung. They still need to level up, I think, a little bit some of their
Yeah.
practices in the
Well, I mean,
NFL.
the also the concussion protocols. Well, except for when you're a star player, apparently those guys never get concussions.
Yeah,
But at least they're trying to take things in the right direction,
yeah.
uh, even if the implementation's not always there.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing one of the best wide receivers in the league is out this week. Nico Collins is out with a concussion.
Nico Collins,
It
that's
seems.
right.
And I felt like we saw that a lot more this year, right? A guy get injured like Emin Warrior, one of the guys, and we just kind of were like, oh, dang, a concussion. He'll be out next week. Where in the past, it felt like, okay, at least it was a head injury. He'll be back in no time, right? It
Well,
wasn't his neck. It wasn't. So, yeah.
think back to when we were kids, and like what they used to call it was he got his bell rung.
Yeah.
And so when you get your bell rung, it's expected that you just go right back in.
Yeah. Not a
And there
big
was
deal, right?
I can't remember which team it was, but somebody got in trouble because they used smelling salts and they're trying to dissuade that in the NFL. It's not technically against the rules, but like the NFL said like that shouldn't be part of the concussion protocol.
Yeah, I think it brings the body back quicker from like some concussion systems. So maybe it was like Josh Allen this year. I can't remember, but I know the rule has changed to before the teams were providing the smelling salts. Now the players themselves
Yeah,
have to
that's what it was. If the
provide it.
player
Yeah,
gets it themselves, then
yeah,
there's not much you can do. But yeah, it
yeah.
was.
We saw some fun ones of that. Aaron Rodgers just hanging
Have you
out
ever
before the huddle, digging, tossing it down, and getting ready to go.
have you ever taken it before?
I don't know if I have taken that. I definitely haven't taken that type of thing where it's a little packet, but I think before they'd make these little canisters and sometimes a gym friend would, have and from my memory, I think I have taken it. It's just like a major shock to the system.
Yeah,
It's just
it
like
does.
all of a sudden you're just like wide awake.
When I was in
Adrenaline's pumping. Yeah.
when I was in high school, we did it as a kind of like a, oh, let's see what happens if we try it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a major shock. It doesn't smell good. At
Yeah.
least I didn't think it did. But
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like all the way from your head to your toes, everything just got turned on, you know?
Yeah. I'd say like jumping in, if you jumped into Puget Sound right now, you might get
Yeah,
a
that's a
similar.
very good analogy. It's like if you just jump in a cold water bath, like it's like,
Yeah.
everything's okay.
Yeah. It's like something, I got to fight something. Something's going on. I don't know what,
Right.
but my body's in fight mode right away. Yeah.
So what would be the narrative if the Seahawks lose this game?
I think the narrative's immediately going to be on Darnold. For me, I would put it on the coaching as well, but I think that the narrative naturally would go right away to Darnold. I don't like that that's the way it is, but at the same time, when you're a quarterback, you get the ball every play, the offense runs through you. And especially being a guy like Darnold who struggled with a 14-win team in the past in the playoffs, it goes straight to Darnold. That's just the way I would see it.
It's kind of a huge pressure. I mean, you think about it like from the perspective of, let's say Lamar Jackson, right?
Yeah,
Up until a couple years ago, he had never won a playoff game.
yeah.
You kind of got to win the playoff game to get this monkey off your back, don't you?
Yeah, and in a sad way even, I think, we're talking about the dark side and they wanna have this legacy, they've had a year on the level of the Legion of Boom. You kinda have to win the Super Bowl to kinda
To get,
make it through the door
yeah,
that, "Hey, okay, he's a pretty good quarterback," right? Like, Hurts this year had a terrible year. There wasn't as many conversations like in the past where, "Oh, is he really that good of a quarterback?" Because he won that Super Bowl last year, right? So,
yeah. Isn't that funny? The memorable defenses, uh, like the Steel Curtain, the Legion of Boom, I don't know if the Ravens ever had a name for theirs,
yeah,
uh,
I
or the
know the
Bucks,
one you're talking about, though.
yeah, or the Buccaneers.
Yeah,
But when you think about it, the legacy is built by winning the Super Bowl.
yeah,
The the Buffalo Bills had a damn good defense in the early '90s. Nobody
yeah,
cares.
yeah,
Lose 4 Super Bowls, that tends to kill that aura mystique, you know?
yeah. Yeah, Kelly wins half those Super Bowls, we're probably talking about him like a Marino or a
I think
Favre or one of those guys.
if he had won
Okay,
1, like,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
like, that's all it would have taken.
yeah,
But yeah, you're right, I hadn't even thought about that. That's the only way a defense sticks a legacy.
yeah,
And, I mean, quarterbacks don't have to because you just said Marino.
yeah.
Like, you can have a legacy without.
Well, you could,
Maybe,
for your era, have one of the best careers ever and not win the Super Bowl, and then you're okay.
yeah. Well,
But yeah,
well, Philip
yeah,
Rivers, right?
yeah,
Philip Rivers might make the Hall of Fame. You know,
yeah.
but not for a defense. That's I had never thought about that. That's a good call. It's a great call.
Yeah, and honestly, for me in recent times, it feels like that defense has to dominate in the Super Bowl too. Feels like they have to
Right.
kinda shock some people with how they play or how, if whether it's a blowout or they're just dominating the opposing offense. I don't even know if it's just winning a Super Bowl, right? Last year's Eagles team's defense was unreal. Blew out,
Yeah.
Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs, and we don't talk about their defense very much, so,
Not a bad
yeah.
that's not a bad call either because if you look
Yeah,
at yeah, if you look at some of the defenses like the Cowboys 90s teams, I don't remember their defense ever getting a name. They were
yeah,
incredibly dominant,
yeah,
but they were overshadowed by stars on the offense.
yeah,
And they interesting. Well, let's get
yeah.
back to the Seahawks. Give me a key to winning this game.
So the key for me is, as we've seen in some of these other playoff teams, for me, this was the year of the defense. I think the defense this year came back and has put a stamp on the NFL. We'll see what happens. There's still some really good quarterbacks and offensive left, like Stafford or what they're doing in Buffalo with Josh Allen. But if the Seahawks win, I think it's going to be, hey, we have the number one defense in the NFL for a reason. This is the year of the defense, and we've figured some things out as a league on the defensive side of the ball. I think we could see that from a lot of teams. There could be a big defensive narrative coming out of, New England, yeah, Denver, even the Rams were a solid defense this year, and we could talk about, hey, look at how good the defenses are left. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's been the way it's been all year. Darnold's had a really good start, but he has the most turnovers in the league now. I think that narrative has shifted to the dark side. I I hope, I actually really like that it's grown on me over time. I would love what
Dark
we
side
talked about this
defense.
year is the dark
Okay.
side coming back a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, the key to winning this is the Seahawks offensive line. I mean, they bullied the 49ers defensive
Yeah,
line.
good call.
I want to see it again. I want to see it again. I want to see Gray Zabel show all these idiots that he should have been a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
Also, for me, 5 All Pros. I feel like there were more on this team that I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
That's
think they
just
had a single defensive first team, right?
no
Did they just have
one
was
first teamer.
Witherspoon?
Only one first teamer at all, and that was
Yeah.
JSN. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
and
crazy.
yeah, I
I don't
think
get that.
anyway.
Yeah.
That could be just me being greedy. Name me a player that nobody's talking about right now.
Well, I've said Woolen a little too much. So,
You can say Woolen again. It's fine.
no, I mean, I love him, but I agree with you so much on the offensive side of the ball. And I think a big part we haven't really talked about in the last couple games is the Seahawks offense was starting to struggle a little bit is there was no Charles Cross. And I think having him back is going to be a huge factor for Darnold. I think a lot of, I don't like to bring up past demons for him, but some of those ghosts that he's been seeing lately might be because he knew in his blind side he was going to be getting, pressure a step or two faster than he was used to all season. So I think it's really underrated having Cross back. I think he runs that O line. I think he runs kind of the passing game in particular on that O line. So yeah, I think that's a big underrated factor is, hey, maybe Darnold is going to look like Darnold when his best, pass protector and left tackle comes back.
Excellent. And my choice for someone nobody's talking about. I already said. I'll just say it again. Greg Zabel. I mean,
Yeah.
his chemistry with the center Sundell is amazing.
Yeah.
I think on this offensive line, by the way, Bradford is what we know him to be.
Yeah.
He's going to give us a bafflingly bad play and then followed up with a good play. There's no middle ground with that guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe if
Yeah.
you can give us more good plays than bad plays, that's another
Yeah.
key.
And I think luckily for him, there's $100 million of injuries on that front seven for the Niners. So I think this could
Nice.
be a game where he looks okay. I'm not going to look ahead to any weeks ahead, but there's some pretty good interior defensive linemen sitting there in the NFC playoffs. So I hope he doesn't do the Bradford thing
Got it. I tell you
this
what,
week. Yeah.
Bradford proves why the Pro Football Focus scores don't always work right.
Yeah.
He actually rates as pretty average, but again, I think that's because one play he'll just be a disaster, and the one play he'll be awesome.
Yeah.
And he comes out to middle, but he doesn't ever play at the middle.
Yeah. And in kind of an opposite way, I also think that sometimes, a guy can drop a pass or a guy can just completely whiff on a block, and that doesn't define their full game. Right.
Yeah.
But as in this age of, YouTube and shorts and TikTok and everything, man, you don't want to drop a pass right now.
Well,
You don't want to whiff a block because you're gonna have people watching it millions of times, right? So it's
here's
also
why
tough to be
fans
a
here's why fans are generally morons. I was reading some posts, and 49er fans were coming down hard on Christian McCaffrey about about tipping that ball into uh, not Okada. It was into
I thought it wasn't not Okada.
was it Okada? No, it was a linebacker, not Knight.
Thomas?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, Drake Thomas's hands, or was it Okada? It doesn't matter. Anyway,
Yeah.
people were getting mad at Christian McCaffrey, and I'm like, look, the guy had to twist sideways around behind. Ball was tipped. Like sometimes a dropped ball isn't really a dropped ball. Sometimes it's a really
Yeah.
bad case of luck or a tip pass or a overthrow, that kind of thing.
I mean, and you watch him running back to the sideline these days, and it almost looks like an old man with the way he has to kind of hunch over a little bit on his back because everyone's injured for them. And the one constant has been, hey, McCaffrey has put the team on his back. And he is just, for me, still, even with some of his weaknesses now that he's been more injured, not as fluid on some of his movements, the whole thing runs through him. As
The
much as
guy,
Shanahan is coach of the year, for
yeah,
me, if you want to go that route, offensive player of the year could be McCaffrey because he was the one constant that got them here. And for me, when he's out, that's when things get really bad for the Niners. And since he was there all year, I think that's a big part of why they're right here in the playoffs.
right on. All right, so you got a prediction for the score?
Man, I've been going back and forth all week because it was such a low scoring game last time. But I do feel like the offenses are going to be a little more opened up. It seems like, the dark side has some struggles with the complex defense and play calls when the crowd is really loud. So I see it being in the 20s. I'm going to say 24-21 Seahawks.
Yeah, I'm kind of actually in the same thing. I was going to go with I think this one definitely becomes a little more of an offensive powerhouse. I don't think we can bottle up the Niners again, but I think we can score on them. It's not going to be a problem.
Yeah.
And that'll be 27-24 for me.
Yeah.
Seahawks win. Well, as we always do, we end the shows with a shout out. I'm going to go ahead and give I'm going to give a shout out to Matt Page's fiance, who went back in the hospital, recovering from cancer, but she went back to the hospital, but got back out. Way to go, Patsy, on fighting that.
Yeah.
Do you have a shout out?
Yeah, I'd like to shout out my dad, actually. He retired from Caltech, like his job as a scientist after, decent amount of decades now, and he
Nice.
retired at last Friday. So congratulations to my dad for hopefully he'll handle the retirement well and accept that, hey, he doesn't have to work all the time, doesn't have to do every project everywhere. But yeah, congratulations.
Is he Nathan Savage Sr.?
Richard Savage. Yeah, he's
Richard
Richard
Savage.
Savage Jr., actually.
Oh my God, Richard your name is pretty macho, but Richard Savage sounds like a novel from the 90s, like some guy that
Yeah.
would go to South America and recover artifacts.
Yeah,
Richard
no, it's
Savage.
for me, I'm glad I didn't, I feel like there's a lot you have to really be a certain type of person to have the name of Richard Savage. Might need, some neck tattoos and stuff. So yeah, I'm glad I didn't have to live up to that.
All right, fans out there, I'm hoping you're excited. I'm excited. Nathan's excited. And we want to thank you for watching us here on YouTube and listening to us on Spotify. Please check out our social media on X. That's at Seattle Sports U. And look for us, like us on Facebook. And on behalf of Nathan Savage and myself, Abraham DeWeese, and the Seattle Sports Union, we'll see you guys next time.
Go Hawks. Let's go.